The arena was silent. Thousands of alien eyes stared down from the shining towers. Smoke drifted across the broken floor, where one man stood alone. His clothes were torn, his body covered with dust and blood, but his eyes were steady. He had survived. He was the only human to ever fight in this place and live. For hours, he had battled monsters, machines, and alien champions. Now, the final gong had sounded. The crowd of different species, scaled, feathered, glowing, rose to their feet and roared. They were not cheering for him. They were cheering for the show, for the blood, for the cruelty of the overlords. At the highest seat, a tall alien ruler raised his hand. His skin was silver, his crown made of sharp crystal. His voice echoed like thunder, carried by hidden machines. Human, you have done the impossible. You have fought, and you have won. And now you shall be given your reward. The man lifted his head. He expected riches, freedom, or maybe a starship to take him home. But when the gates at the far side of the arena opened, his heart froze. 2 women were led out in chains. They were not human. Their skin had strange patterns that glowed faintly, like light moving underwater. Their eyes were bright, shining like twin suns. Each step they took was heavy because the chains on their wrists and ankles dragged against the stone floor. The crowd roared louder when they appeared, as if this was the true entertainment. The man frowned. These women were not smiling. They did not look proud or strong. They looked terrified. The alien ruler spread his arms. Behold, 2 treasures of the old wars. They are yours to claim, but you must choose. One of them will be your prize. The other will be taken away forever. Gasps and whispers filled the arena. Every creature seemed excited. Every alien eye glowed with hunger. But the man's mind raced. Why were they chained? Why did they look at him with fear instead of hope? The first woman lifted her head. Her hair was white as ice, and her skin glimmered faint blue. She stared at him with eyes that almost begged. The second woman was darker, her hair black, her glowing patterns red like fire. She did not beg. She only glared, as if testing him, judging his soul. The man's chest tightened. Something was wrong. Something deep in his bones told him this was no normal prize. The alien ruler's voice cut through the noise. Choose, human. Choose now. One lives. One vanishes. This is the law of the reward. The man took a step forward. Dust rose under his boots. He looked from one woman to the other. The crowd grew quiet again, waiting. The overlord leaned closer on his throne, his sharp smile wide. The man spoke, his voice strong. I will not choose one. The arena froze. The words echoed again and again, bouncing off the high walls. The ruler's smile dropped. What did you say? The man stood taller. His body was tired, his arms heavy, but his voice carried like steel. I will take both. For a heartbeat, silence swallowed everything. Then the arena exploded with noise. Creatures shouted in shock. Wings beat against the air. Claws scraped against stone. Some laughed, some screamed, some cried out curses in their own tongues. The alien overlord's eyes turned cold. His silver skin seemed to darken. Foolish human, he whispered. You dare break the law of choice. None in 1,000 years has done this. But the man did not step back. He did not lower his eyes. I fought for my life. I fought for victory. You gave me a reward, and I have chosen. I take both. The 2 chained women looked at each other. For the first time, their eyes lit with something strange, not fear, not anger, but a spark of quaint awe. Relief. The overlord leaned back slowly in his throne. His crystal crown glowed with a dim light. He raised his hand, and the chains were unlocked with a hiss of energy. The metal fell to the floor. The women were free. The crowd's roar became uneasy. Some aliens hissed, some shouted warnings. A ripple of fear spread across the arena. It was as if the man had spoken forbidden words, as if he had awoken something long buried. The overlord's eyes burned into the man. Your choice will cost you, human. You think you have one? But you have opened a door that should never be opened. The man's fists clenched. He did not understand the meaning of the overlord's words, but deep in his heart he felt that the air was heavier now, the shadows darker. The two women stood behind him, close, silent, their glowing patterns shifting like fire and ice. The man's reward was not freedom. His reward was a mystery, and in that moment, though he did not yet know it, his real trial had just begun. The chains hit the ground with a heavy clang. Dust rose around the man's boots. The two alien women rubbed their wrists, their glowing patterns shifting like restless fire and ice. For the first time, they stood free, but the arena was not cheering anymore. The creatures in the stands had fallen into a strange silence. Many looked uneasy. Some even stepped back from the edges of their seats, as if they feared the sight of freedom more than blood. The overlord on the crystal throne did not clap. His silver skin shimmered in anger, though his smile tried to stay calm. His voice rolled out, low and sharp. You dare, human. No one takes both. It is against the ancient order. The man did not move. His body was still battered from the battles, but his spirit was steady. He looked at the two women. The first, pale as frost, lowered her eyes shyly. The second, dark as flame, tilted her head and gave the smallest of smiles. The man spoke slowly, clearly, for all to hear. I fought. I bled. You promised a reward. My choice is both. That is final. Gasps rolled through the arena like thunder. Some creatures hissed in rage. Others laughed nervously. The overlord's hand twitched, as if he wanted to give the order to kill the man instantly. But then, something strange happened. The women's glowing lines began to shift. The pale one's blue light pulsed faster, brighter. The dark one's red glow sharpened like burning coals. And when they stood close together, the colors flickered as if they were answering each other. The crowd noticed. Fear spread. Whispers broke out in a dozen alien tongues. Not again. It cannot be. He has broken the silence. The man heard none of these whispers clearly, but he felt the weight of them. The air in the arena grew heavy, as if even the stone walls were holding their breath. The overlord's smile finally broke. His teeth were sharp, shining like blades. Human, you are a fool. You have undone what we sealed long ago. The man frowned. Sealed. The overlord leaned forward, eyes burning. Do you know who these two women are? They are not prizes. They are not gifts. They are dangers. Cursed sisters of the lost age. Chained so that no one would ever see them stand side by side. The pale woman closed her eyes. The dark one laughed softly, almost like a hiss. The man's heart beat faster. He had felt something was wrong, but now the truth was pressing closer. He looked at the women, but neither spoke a word. The overlord raised his hand to the guards. Take them back. Take him too. This choice is forbidden. Dozens of armored guards poured into the arena, their weapons humming with energy. Their steps echoed as they circled the man and the two women. The man clenched his fists. He was weak from the battles, but he would not kneel. He turned his head slightly, whispering to the women, "Can you fight?" The pale one did not answer. She looked nervous, her glowing patterns flickering faintly. But the dark one stepped forward, her chains dragging behind her like broken snakes. She whispered, just loud enough for him to hear, "You chose both. That means you chose us together. Watch closely. The guards charged. The arena filled with noise against oars clashing, energy blades slicing the air. The man swung a stolen weapon, knocking down the first guard. But before he could raise it again, the two women moved. Blue light burst from the pale woman's hands, freezing the ground in sharp spikes of ice. Guards slipped, their weapons cracking against the cold. Red fire shot from the dark woman's palms, burning through shields, melting armor. The crowd screamed. Some creatures ran, others cheered in wild terror. No one had ever seen this before. Not in 1,000 years. The overlord's face darkened with fury. His voice thundered over the chaos. Stop them. Do not let them unite. But it was too late. The man and the two women stood back to back, fighting as one. Their powers clashed and danced, frost and flame weaving together in deadly beauty. The last guard fell, his weapon melting into the ground. The arena floor was cracked, smoking, frozen in parts and burning in others. The man panted, sweat running down his face. He looked at the women in shock. You could have done this all along. Why did you wait? The pale one finally spoke, her voice soft as falling snow. Because we could not fight apart. Alone, we are broken halves. Together, we are whole. The Dark One smirked. And you, human, gave us that chance. You broke their game. The Overlord rose from his throne. His silver crown glowed with sharp light. His voice was filled with hate. You do not know what you have done. You will doom us all. The man glared back. Maybe, or maybe I've given them back what you stole. The two women stepped closer to him, one on each side. Their glowing patterns were brighter now, feeding each other, rising like twin flames ready to become one. The arena trembled. The Overlord soldiers were gone. The crowd was screaming. And the sky above the open roof seemed to darken. The forbidden choice had been made, and the universe had just changed forever. The arena floor was cracked and burning. Ice steamed, fire smoldered, and the smell of smoke filled the air. The man stood in the center, chest rising and falling, while the two alien women glowed brighter than ever. But the fight was not over. Above the arena, metal doors began to slide open. Massive war machines descended, their bodies made of steel and claws. Wings of iron spread wide as they dropped into formation. The Overlord had unleashed his hunters. The crowd scattered in panic. Beasts and aliens climbed over each other to escape the arena stands. The silence of fear was gone now. It was chaos. The Overlord's voice thundered like storm clouds. You will not leave here alive, human. Neither will they. The law is broken, and the law demands blood. The man tightened his grip on the stolen blade. Then you'll have to take it. The first hunter machine lunged, its claws slicing through the stone floor. The man rolled aside, barely escaping. The pale woman raised her hands, sending a wall of ice crashing up from the ground. The machine struck the wall, freezing solid. And the dark woman followed with a blast of fire that shattered it into burning shards. Another machine charged. Its eyes glowed red, targeting the man. But before it reached him, the pale woman pulled him back. The fireborn one leaped forward, her chains swinging like whips, striking sparks from the machine's armor. The man's chest burned with exhaustion. His body was human, fragile compared to the chaos around him. But he refused to fall. He shouted above the noise. We can't fight forever. We need a way out. The pale woman looked at him, her icy glow reflecting in his eyes. There is one way. The dark woman smirked. But it's dangerous, even for us. The man gritted his teeth. Then we take it. Show me. They nodded once. Together, the two women turned their eyes upward toward the roof of the arena, where the night sky glimmered with stars. Their glowing patterns pulsed faster, red and blue weaving together into a storm of light. They raised their hands. Fire and ice joined, spinning into a violent spiral. A beam of power shot upward, tearing through stone and steel. The roof exploded. Rubble rained down. Light from the twin moons shone into the arena for the first time. The crowd screamed as debris crashed into the stands. The hunters froze, their systems shaking from the shockwave. The man shielded his face from falling stone. He looked up through the broken roof and saw the impossible. A fleet of ships floating above the city, black as shadows, watching. The dark woman whispered, almost to herself, "They know we are free." The pale one grabbed the man's arm. "Move, now." They sprinted toward the outer gates. Guards poured in, weapons flashing, but the women moved like fire and frost storms. The pale one froze walls of ice to block pursuers. The dark one burned through doors, melting metal into rivers. The man fought beside them, his blade cutting down anyone who got too close. His heart pounded, not just with fear, but with a strange thrill. He was alive in a way he had never felt before. Finally, they burst through the gates. Outside the arena, alarms blared across the alien city. Tall towers shone with red warning lights. Ships lifted off platforms, soldiers marched in the streets. The whole world was waking to hunt them. The man gasped. "We'll never outrun all of this." The dark woman pointed ahead. A sleek ship rested on a nearby platform, guarded but not yet in flight. Its wings curved like blades, its engines glowing faint blue. "There," she said. "It's fast." "We take it." The man nodded. "Then we fight our way through." The guards at the platform raised their rifles. Energy bolts shot across the street, burning holes in the ground. The man dove behind cover, but the two women did not stop. The pale one froze the air, forming a shield of ice that blocked the bolts. The dark one sent waves of fire rolling forward, scattering the guards. Together, they cleared the path in seconds. The man sprinted up the ramp, heart pounding. Inside, the ship's controls blinked with alien symbols. He stared at them helplessly. "I don't know how to fly this," he shouted. The pale woman slid into the seat beside him. Her hands glowed as they touched the controls, ice patterns spreading across the panel. The ship answered her touch, systems powering on. The dark one slammed the hatch shut behind them. "Then sit down, human, and hold on." The engines roared. The ship lifted from the platform, energy surging through its wings. Guards fired at them from below, but the vessel rose faster. Climbing into the sky, the city's defense towers turned their cannons upward. The first blast rocked the ship, shaking everyone inside. The man gripped the seat, his stomach dropping. The pale woman's face was calm. "They will not stop us." The dark woman smiled with fire in her eyes. "Let them try." The ship streaked through the clouds, chased by enemy fire. Behind them, the arena burned. The overlords' city screamed with alarms. Above, the black fleet waited like hungry shadows. The man stared into the endless stars, breath caught in his throat. He had chosen both. And now, the whole galaxy wanted him dead. But in his heart, he felt something stronger than fear. For the first time, he felt destiny. The stolen ship tore through the sky, leaving the burning city behind. Enemy fire fell away as the pale woman guided the vessel into the darkness of space. The stars spread wide around them, sharp and endless. Inside the ship, silence filled the cabin. The man sat against the wall, chest heaving. His hands shook from the fight, from the escape, from the weight of what had just happened. He looked at the two women. For the first time, they were not chained. For the first time, he saw them free. The pale one sat at the controls. Her glowing blue lines flickered like quiet rivers, calm and steady. The Dark One paced the cabin, her red light pulsing like fire, ready to burn again. Finally, the man broke the silence. "You could have escaped without me. Why didn't you?" The pale woman turned her head slightly, her voice soft. "Because we could not leave the arena alone. The law binds us. One cannot leave without the other. And until you chose us both, the chains were unbroken." The Dark One smirked. "Besides, human, you're more useful than you look." The man frowned. "Chains. Laws. What are you talking about? Why were you prisoners?" The Dark One stopped pacing. Her eyes glowed red as she looked at him. "Do you know what your choice really means?" He shook his head. "I only know I couldn't leave one of you behind." For a moment, silence again. The pale woman's hands stilled on the controls. Then she whispered, "We were not chained because we were weak. We were chained because together. We are too strong." The man's breath caught. Too strong. The Dark One stepped closer, her light casting red shadows across the walls. "Long ago, we were one. Not sisters. Not enemies. One being, whole. Complete. But the overlords feared us. They split us in two and bound us apart. Ice and fire divided. Alone, we are fragments. Together, we are something else." The man stared. His heart pounded faster. He remembered how the arena had shaken when they fought together, how fire and frost had danced as if alive. And by choosing both, "I made you whole again." The pale woman nodded slowly. "Yes, you awakened what was broken. You gave us the bond back." The cabin felt colder, then warmer, as their lights pulsed in rhythm. It was not only power, it was connection. A hidden bond that seemed alive. The man rubbed his forehead. "The overlords said I had undone something. He said the law was broken." The Dark One laughed softly, but there was no joy in it. "Of course, their law was built on fear. Fear of what we are. Fear of what happens if we stand side by side. You broke their game, human. And now the galaxy will hunt you for it." The man leaned back against the wall. "Then tell me, what are you really? Who were you before they chained you?" The pale woman's eyes lowered. Her glow dimmed like fading ice. "We were a queen, a ruler of stars. We do not remember everything. Time and chains have stolen much. But we know this. We once held power the overlords could not control. So they tore us apart." The Dark Woman's voice grew sharper. "And now you, by accident or by fate, have brought us closer again. That is why they will never stop chasing us." The man felt the weight of their words. He had thought he was winning freedom. But instead, he had stepped into a war much older than himself. His voice was quiet. "So what happens now?" The pale woman looked at him, her blue glow calm. "Now, we survive. We rebuild what was lost." The Dark One smiled with fire in her eyes. "And maybe, human, we burn this galaxy clean." The man shook his head. "No, I didn't free you to trade one set of chains for another. If we fight, it must be for more than revenge." The Dark One raised an eyebrow. "You think you get to decide our path?" The pale woman spoke gently, her gaze steady. "Perhaps he does. He chose both of us when no one else dared. Maybe that means something. Maybe his choice is part of the bond, too." The Dark One fell silent, her smile fading as she studied the man. For the first time, her fiery eyes softened, just a little. The ship drifted deeper into space. Alarms faded. The stars were endless and cold. The man stood slowly, walking to the front window. He looked out at the galaxy spread before them, shining like oceans of light. He whispered, more to himself than to them, "I thought I won a prize. But maybe. I started something I don't understand. The two women stood behind him, one on each side, glowing frost and fire. Together, their light reflected on the glass, and somewhere far behind them, in the ruined city, the overlord watched the sky with burning hatred. His voice echoed through his halls. They are bonded again, and if they complete the union, we are all finished. The stars were quiet, but the silence did not last. An alarm screamed through the stolen ship. Red symbols flashed across the control panel. The pale woman's hands froze above the glowing controls. "They found us," she whispered. The man leaned forward, his eyes narrowing. "Already." The dark woman moved to the window. Beyond the glass, the void of space shimmered. Dozens of bright lights appeared, blinking into existence. Warships, black and sharp like blades, unfolded from the shadows. Their engines glowed red, their weapons already locking on target. The pale woman's voice was steady, but her eyes betrayed worry. "They are the Overseer's fleet. Hunters built for one task, to destroy us." The Dark One laughed coldly. "Good, let them try." The man shook his head. "You can't fight all of them. There are too many." The ship shuddered as the first blast of energy tore past them. The pale woman pulled the controls sharply, and the vessel dropped downward, skimming close to a field of drifting asteroids. Rocks spun silently in the void, massive and jagged. Glowing faintly in the starlight, the chase had begun. Enemy fire lit up the darkness. Bolts of burning light cracked against asteroids, breaking them apart. The man braced himself against the cabin wall as the ship twisted and rolled, diving between spinning rocks. "Hold steady," he shouted. The pale woman's voice was calm, almost too calm. "Steady is not enough. We must be faster." Her hands glowed as she touched the controls. Ice spread across the panels, and the engines surged with blue light. The ship leaped forward like a spear, weaving through the asteroid field at impossible speed. The man's stomach turned. He gripped the seat, trying not to lose his breath. "You're going to kill us." The Dark One laughed. "Better to die flying than die chained." She raised her hands, fire burning between her palms. She pressed them against the walls of the ship, and suddenly the vessel's sides shimmered with heat. Enemy blasts struck but dissolved into smoke, burned away before impact. The man's eyes widened. "You're both powering the ship." The pale one nodded, her blue glow steady. "This vessel is alive. It answers to our bond." The chase grew fiercer. Warships split apart, swarming from different sides. Their cannons lit up the asteroids like a false sunrise. The hunters did not care how many rocks they destroyed. They wanted blood. The man leaned toward the women. "We can't outrun them forever. Is there anywhere safe to go?" The pale one hesitated. "There is a planet nearby. A dead world, forbidden. Few dare approach it." The Dark One smiled, fire dancing in her eyes. "Perfect. If they fear it, we go there." The man frowned. "And if the reason they fear it is because it kills everything that lands?" The Dark One's smile grew sharper. "Then we will find out." Another blast rocked the ship, sending sparks across the cabin. Warning lights screamed. The pale woman pushed the engines harder, threading through the last stretch of asteroids. Ahead, the black curve of a planet rose into view. Its surface was broken, scarred with deep cracks that glowed faintly, as if fire still lived under its skin. The Overseer's fleet closed in. The man clenched his fists. His voice was low but firm. "If we land there and it kills us, then everything ends. Tell me honestly, do we even have a chance?" The pale woman looked at him, her blue eyes calm as still water. "With us alone? No. With you, perhaps." The Dark One leaned close, her red glow warm against his face. "You're part of this now, human. Stop asking if you will survive. Start deciding how you will fight. The ship roared into the dead planet's thin atmosphere. Fire streaked across the windows as they descended. The overseer's ships followed, raining energy blasts like falling stars. Explosions shook the skies. The surface rushed closer, vast canyons, rivers of glowing lava. Towers of black stone that pierced the clouds. The pale woman whispered. "Hold tight." She pulled the ship into a dive, skimming across the molten rivers, so low that the heat shook the cabin. Enemy ships followed, but many smashed into cliffs or burst in flames when they lost control. The man shouted over the noise, "You're using the planet to fight them." The Dark One grinned fiercely. "Now you understand." But even as more hunters fell, the largest of the Overseer's warships descended behind them. It was a giant, black as night, its cannons glowing with energy enough to shatter mountains. The man's breath caught. That thing could destroy us in one shot. The pale woman's hands tightened on the controls. "Then we must reach the ruins." The man blinked. "Ruins." The Dark One's smile returned, dangerous and sharp. "You'll see soon enough." The ship sped through the canyons, enemy fire shaking the ground, lava bursting into the air. Behind them, the Overseer's fleet closed in. Ahead, strange black towers rose from the lava, their surfaces carved with symbols older than stars. The pale woman's voice was soft, but filled with weight. "This is where the truth begins." The man stared at the towers as the ship descended toward them, his heart racing. He had no idea what secrets waited there. But he knew one thing. The chase was not just about survival anymore. It was about destiny. The stolen ship shook as it passed through smoke and fire. Lava rivers stretched like glowing veins across the dead planet's surface. Black towers rose from the cracks, tall and sharp, their tops hidden in storm clouds. The pale woman guided the vessel lower, her eyes glowing brighter with every mile. The Dark One stood at the window, her red light pulsing in rhythm with the burning landscape. The man sat between them, his chest tight. "What is this place?" The pale woman's voice was soft, almost reverent. "A grave. A memory. A warning." The ship slowed as it neared the towers. Strange energy surged through the air, making the panels hum and flicker. Symbols carved into the black stone glowed faintly, blue and red, the same colors that burned in the woman's skin. The Dark One smiled. "They tried to bury our truth here. But stone remembers. Fire remembers. Ice remembers." The ship landed on a flat platform of obsidian. As the engines cooled, silence fell. No guards, no soldiers, no overseers fleet in sight. Only the storm above and the glow of the towers around them. The man stepped out first. Heat pressed against his skin. Ash fell from the sky like black snow. The ground beneath his boots pulsed faintly, as if alive. The women followed, one on each side. Their glows grew brighter the closer they came to the towers. The man's voice was low. "Why bring me here?" The pale woman raised her hand, touching one of the carvings on the nearest tower. The stone lit up instantly, blue spreading across its surface like water. The Dark One pressed her palm beside it, and red fire spread, twisting with the blue. The tower shook. The ground trembled. The man stumbled back, his heart pounding. "What are you doing?" The pale woman's eyes glowed. "We are remembering." The Dark One's voice was sharp. "And you will see what you chose." The symbols spread from tower to tower. One by one, the black spires lit with spiraling light. The storm above cracked open with lightning, flashing blue and red. The air buzzed with energy, lifting dust into swirls. Then the vision began. The man's surroundings blurred. The towers dissolved into light. He was no longer standing on stone, but floating in endless black, with stars burning far away. Before him appeared a figure, a single woman. Tall, glowing, more radiant than either of the two by his side. Her skin carried both fire and frost, red and blue flowing like rivers across her body. Her eyes burned like suns, her presence heavy like a mountain and endless like space itself. The man's breath caught. "Who is that?" The Pale One's voice echoed in the void. "What we were," the Dark One added, "what we could be again." The vision showed the goddess figure raising her hand. Stars bent, planets cracked. Armies of the overseers fell before her power. The galaxy trembled, not in worship, but in fear. The man whispered, "You were rulers." The Pale One's voice was calm, almost sad. "We were protectors." But power twisted us. We became more than guardians. We became tyrants. The Dark One's laugh was low. Tyrants or gods? The overseers feared us because we were beyond them, so they cut us apart. They split us into halves fire and ice, bound us in chains. For ages, we waited. The vision changed. He saw the overseers silver-skinned, crowned in crystal standing over the two chained figures. They carved symbols into the towers, sealing the women's bond. The galaxy's peace was bought with their division. The man's fists clenched. So when I chose both, I broke their seal. The Pale One's voice was soft. "Yes, you brought us together again." The Dark One stepped closer, her red glow warming his skin. "And now we can finish what we began." The vision faded. The towers dimmed. The storm returned. The man found himself back on the burning platform, the two women standing beside him. He was shaking. His mind reeled with what he had seen. He stared at them, his voice hoarse. "If you become one again, what happens to this galaxy?" The Pale One looked down, silent. The Dark One smiled, her teeth sharp. "It burns, or it kneels." The man stepped back, his heart racing. "That's why they chained you. That's why they fear you." The Pale Woman finally lifted her gaze, her blue eyes calm and sad. Fear is not always wrong. We do not know what will happen if we merge. We only know it will change everything. The man turned toward the towers, the storm, the lava below. He felt the weight of choice pressing on him again. He had freed them without knowing. Now he understood the truth. He had not just chosen two prisoners. He had chosen the return of a queen. The ground shook as the overseer's fleet descended through the storm. Black ships spread across the sky, their cannons glowing red, their engines roaring like thunder. The storm clouds burned with lightning, blue and red flashing together as if the planet itself knew what was coming. The man stood between the two alien women, one glowing with frost-blue light, the other with fire-red flame. Together, their colors pulsed, faster and brighter, feeding each other. The black towers around them trembled, their ancient symbols glowing once again. The Pale Woman's voice was calm but heavy. "They will not stop. Not until we are ash again." The Dark Woman smiled with fire in her eyes. "Then let us give them the ending they fear." The man's fists tightened. He looked from one to the other, his voice sharp. "If you merge, what happens? Tell me the truth." The Pale One's gaze lowered. "We do not know. Perhaps we save. Perhaps we destroy. Perhaps we burn away the stars themselves." The Dark One's smile widened. "But we will be whole. That is enough." The sky split open as the lead overseer ship descended. Larger than the rest, its silver crown glowed like a false sun. The voice of the overseer overlord thundered across the sky. "Human, you have broken the seal. You stand with the cursed sisters. Surrender them, and you may live." The man shouted back, his voice echoing against stone and fire. "No, I will not surrender what you chained." You fear them because they are more than you. The overlord's laughter rolled like thunder. You are a fool. You think you control them. But if they become one, they will not belong to you. They will not belong to anyone. They will belong only to power. And you will be dust. The women stood close now, their glows intertwining. Fire curled around ice. Ice cooled the flames, neither fading, both rising higher. The man's chest pounded. He remembered the vision, the goddess figure, her hand raising, stars bending, planets breaking. He remembered the terror and the beauty of it, and he knew this was his moment. The pale one reached for his hand, her fingers cold, her voice gentle. If you choose us together, we will merge. We will rise. The overseers will fall. The dark one leaned close, her heat burning against his skin. But you must choose, human. Do you want us as one? Or do you keep us apart? The overseer fleet opened fire. The sky rained energy blasts. The black towers shattered. Lava burst upward. The ground split beneath them. The man's heart screamed. Every choice meant death. But only one meant change. He gritted his teeth, raised his head, and shouted into the storm. I choose both again. The women clasped his hands. Their lights flared, brighter than fire, colder than ice. Their bodies blurred, their colors spun together. The ground shook as the two halves of the goddess fused, red and blue becoming one brilliant white light. The overseer fleet fired again, but the blasts melted into nothing before touching the platform. From the white glow, a single figure emerged, taller, stronger, radiant with both frost and flame. Her eyes blazed like suns, her presence filling the air with unbearable weight. She was not two. She was one. The reborn queen. The overseers screamed. Their ships trembled. The overlord's voice shook with rage. No, she must not return. The goddess raised her hand. The sky itself bent. Ships twisted, breaking apart as if crushed by invisible hands. Lava rivers surged upward, freezing into black stone. Lightning tore through the storm, striking the fleet with unholy fire. The man stumbled back, shielding his eyes from the blinding light. His heart raced with terror and awe. This was no longer the pale woman or the dark one. This was something greater, something older, something he could barely understand. Yet, she looked at him through the storm, through the chaos. Her gaze fell on him alone. And for a moment he saw both of them in her eyes, the calm of frost, the fury of fire. Her voice shook the planet. You chose. You bound us. Now we are whole. The man shouted above the storm. What will you do? Her answer was both a promise and a threat. We will decide the fate of stars. The overseer, overlord, screamed. But his voice was drowned as his great ship cracked in two, fire pouring into the sky. The fleet fell, torn apart like paper in the wind. Silence followed. Only the sound of the planet's molten rivers remained. The goddess lowered her hand. The man stood alone, breathing hard, staring up at her. She was terrifying. She was magnificent. She was free. She stepped closer, towering over him, her light softening. For a moment, her voice was not thunder, but a whisper only he could hear. You freed us, human. And so, you are bound to us. The man's breath caught. Bound. What did that mean? Before he could speak, her form shimmered. The storm swallowed her light, and in an instant she vanished into the sky, leaving only silence and ash behind. The man fell to his knees. He had survived the arena. He had broken the seal. He had awakened a goddess. But now the galaxy would tremble not only under the overseers, but under the return of a queen reborn, and deep in his heart. He knew one truth. His choice had not ended the war. It had only begun it.